Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Well, hello, and welcome to another special guest episode. I'm thrilled today to be joined by Dr. Nelson, who is a board-certified psychiatrist as well as an author and speaker. Crystal, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Dr. Mello.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself. You have quite a bio and quite a lot of interesting, interests beyond sort of the standard flavor of psychiatry. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start current. So currently, I am a practice owner. My practice is Blueprint Psychiatry. I'm in Noonan, Georgia, which is a suburb outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And we have officially reached, I believe, over 4,500 patients. I cannot believe that, which is crazy. But so I do that. I'm a mom. I have 3 children, married. And I would say a fun fact is I am an avid dancer. I am a dancer and love to dance. Met my husband dancing. But so I carry all those hats, and then I speak and train doctors and nurses around the country on how to manage medications in the field of mental health, and then try in any downtime to write books. So if there is downtime. So
yeah, after the dancing is over. What kind of dance in particular?
Yeah. So that's that, but that's the story now. It took quite a while to reach that, which sounds like a lot, but it's probably much more normal than the first half of getting there.
Yeah. Well, and let's jump into your story, because it has elements to it that are, of course, unique and heartbreaking, as each of our stories do. But you experienced something particularly challenging really early in your career. So tell us a little bit about that chapter of your life.
Yeah, so I got married very young. So I was 21 when I got married, graduated from college and got married right away to my high school sweetheart. And I kind of ran from med school for a little bit. I went and became a chemist for a pharmaceutical company. So we traipsed off to California like young kids do, and sell everything, drive across the country, and I go to work. And but I realized I was still being called to be a physician. So we came back to the East Coast, and I decided to take the MCAT. So I had registered for the MCAT, and about 3 days before I was supposed to take the MCAT, I found out that he had a brain tumor. And so at this point, I'm not a physician. I don't know anything about medicine whatsoever. All I knew was I'm set to take the MCAT, and he told me they said they need to do surgery within the week. So in between that news, I did take the MCAT. I tell people to this day, I cannot remember that test. Obviously, I took it, but I cannot remember showing up. I can't remember taking it, remember nothing about it. But I took it. He had surgery. And from there, he had surgery, he had radiation. We thought we were in the clear. They told us that, there was a good chance it could reoccur, but he didn't have any cancer. He was in remission. So we kind of moved forward with our life. And I went to medical school. Came back to Atlanta, Georgia to go to medical school. And in that process had my daughter. I got pregnant in med school, in the middle of med school. And about a few months later, we found out that the cancer had reoccurred. And so from there, it was a very, very long journey for the next 11 years, chemo, radiation, surgeries, and I am in med school. And then the next step is to be a resident. So I'm in residency and then early fellowship, all of those things while he is battling cancer. So it was very, very tumultuous, many, many moments of what are you doing? Do you really want to do this? because I had every reason to quit. But
Mhm.
as I've shared with you, I also had every reason to stay. I had every
Mhm.
reason to keep going with it, and so it had to be a very conscious decision to say, okay, let's see this through. And ultimately, unfortunately, he passed away after 11-year battle with cancer, and I've since remarried. But it was a big reason why I practice the way that I do,
Mm,
why I
mhm.
live the way that I do now. I mean, obviously, you can't go through that and not be changed,
Yeah.
but in many ways for the better, not for the worse.
Yeah.
In learning about the value of life and relationships and all of the things that have helped me to really do psychiatry, I think, better,
Yeah.
because I have a different level of compassion that I can bring to my clients.
Did that experience early on influence your decision to go into psychiatry?
Somewhat I would say yes. I did, although I wasn't consciously aware at that time. So from the time I was 5 years old, wanted to be an OBGYN. So I was set that I was going to be an OBGYN, go through medical school. I'm going to be an OBGYN.
Mhm.
Literally, I am in the last year of med school going to be an OBGYN. And my attending at the time, she says, have you ever thought about psychiatry? She said, you spend so much time with the ladies after we deliver and you want to talk with them and make sure they're bonding with the baby. And I said, no, I did not like my psychiatry rotation at all.
Mm.
No, not at all. But then as I was going forward and I'm doing acting internships, I have a baby of my own. So I have my daughter and
Mhm.
I'm getting up in the middle of the night to go deliver babies. And I hated it. I
Mm.
really did not. So I took her advice and I did an acting internship at Emory and psychiatry. And that was when I realized, oh, this is the fit, because I felt like I got to do it all. I got to talk the medicine, I got to talk the spirituality, I got to talk, about all the aspects, the nutrition. So I felt like it was the fit. Whereas in medical school, the only thing they showed me in psychiatry was, the psych hospital, the state psych hospital where you're scared and you're like, I don't want to do that at all. I had no idea there was an outpatient world and a
Mhm.
way to really do it the way that I wanted it. So
Yeah.
that somewhat was having a family, I think, was what propelled me to really take a look at the lifestyles of the different
Mhm.
types of docs, more so had I not had the family and the demands when I was
Yeah.
in school.
Yeah. No, thinking back to my own psychiatry, it's exactly that. I think I shadowed somebody in outpatient, but still outpatient connected to the state psych hospital.
Right.
They weren't that far out of the hospital, and
Yeah, it was like, no way. It was not. I was like, psychiatry, are you kidding me? No,
yeah,
no way. I do not want to do that. So,
yeah,
but it was the
yeah.
fit.
Well, and tell us a little bit about the experience of sort of wrestling with the decisions of do I stay in this path, right? Do I go to residency? Do I continue working as a physician as my husband is struggling through this cancer journey, right? And we've got a young child because as we were talking before we hopped on, you had every reason to say, "Oh, no, this is too hard, I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to quit." And I think a lot of people would jump to that, and a lot of people would stay in it. So I'm just curious kind of what that looked like for you and sort of what that dialogue was for yourself.
Yeah. Well, one, I did early on, um, especially in residency, I did have my own therapist
Mhm.
who was helping me through some of it. And it's funny because as a psychiatrist, I was so against going to therapy. At my residency program, they required us to go to therapy because
Good.
they wanted us to be balanced. And at
Yeah.
the time, I looked at it, again, I'm still pretty young. So I just thought, oh, check the box off, got to go to therapy. But I was not interested in really talking to this woman about my life. I just was trying to focus on residency, get it done. And she was really the one who kind of gave me some help with the mindset of that, time really wasn't going to stop. Certain things were out of my control. Him
Yeah.
having cancer was out of my control. So she put it to me in a way that she says, okay, you can be a wife, you can be a doctor, you can be a wife, or you can be a mother with a husband who has cancer, or you can
Mhm.
be a wife and a mother and a doctor with a husband who has cancer.
Mhm.
So, either way, that part was not going to change. So
Mhm.
if I quit, what would change that? And the other piece was for me that was a driving factor was that I at that point really wanted him to have the best care, and I felt that if I were a physician, I would always know the inside, who's the
Mhm.
best oncologist, who's the
Mhm.
the top surgeon to do this surgery, what are the new trials and treatments that will come out, because you have the backdoor access as the physician. And so
Yeah.
that was also a driving factor, which was a very big deal in him getting very good care and a top notch team that led to him really living with that prognosis for 11 years, whereas
Yeah.
early on they told us a year,
Yeah.
and then he lived 11. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and talk to us a little bit about too the just the challenges of navigating, residency and early attendinghood with a child at home, kind of, and with that, and how did you sort of keep your head above water? Because for people without that extreme medical circumstance going on at home in their family, that's of course just a very challenging time. It sounded like you had great support from your therapist, but what else were you experiencing during that time?
Yeah, well, one thing I did do correctly was I actually had got Emory was going to be my first choice. I was here in Atlanta at Morehouse School of Medicine, and Emory was going to be my first choice. And then very last minute, I said, okay, how are you going to do residency with the kid and a sick husband where you have no support, no
Mm,
outside
mhm,
support? So I chose Virginia Commonwealth because that's where my family was in Virginia and his family. So one, choosing my residency location where we had some family support was very important. My parents were there, his parents were there.
mhm,
So that was a help with that, staying with therapy, and just honestly, sometimes just day by day, leaning in on friends. I have been very fortunate. I have friends that are like family, and people who have looked out for me, who know when I get too quiet that I'm not doing great.
mhm,
So that, and even now, since he's passed, moved forward, new relationship, all of those things, my friendship base is so very valuable to me. I mean, I have a
mhm.
girl trip in 2 weeks that I'll go to, so I hold tight to my friends because those were the people who saw me through those moments. But it is a conscious decision. I mean, I cannot tell you that every day was great. Of course, it was not. It was a conscious decision like, okay, get up, get out of bed, one more day,
Yeah.
let's do this, and constantly trying to look forward to the life that I wanted to have, not sometimes the life that I had that day,
Mm, mhm.
because
Yeah.
sometimes that day it didn't look pretty.
Yeah. Well, I wanna go back a little bit to what you said of when I got too quiet, right? Because I think that as physicians, of course, many of us are introverts, and especially many of us who are listening to the podcast are introverts and have this tendency to really withdraw, during times of challenge. And I think that's exacerbated within medicine, right? Because there can be a lot of stigma over asking for help, asking especially for emotional or mental help support. Tell us a little bit about that for you and how you help others to kind of navigate that because it's a common challenge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. And for introverts, you don't have to have a big, you know, huge tribe of people, but you need to have somebody that knows to check on you. And if
Yeah.
for me, I'm always a proponent of women. Have a good girlfriend, one, two, some girlfriends that will carry you through the course of your life. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, most of the time, women take care of women,
Mm-hmm.
and so to have someone that knows, okay, it's been a few days. I didn't see a post on social media. I haven't heard from Dr. Mello. How's she doing? To call and just say, are you doing okay? And make that agreement with a friend or someone that can check on you, because life gets really busy, and sometimes
Yeah.
you can isolate and you're not even aware that you are isolating.
Yeah.
But if you have that agreement with someone that every few days you're going to check on me, I'm going to check on you, then you hold one another accountable, to manage it. And everything, everything that we go through in life is so much easier when it's somebody else with you,
Yeah.
to talk it through, or even just to listen. They may not even have a solution. I tell clients this when they ask me about how to support their loved one, or how to
Mm-hmm.
support, someone they care about who may be dealing with a mental health issue and they don't know what to do. And especially men, I was like, you can't fix everything. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
so many things you just cannot fix. Just go and be. We are human beings. Go and sit. Go and hold their hand. Just call them, chat about anything, but just chat.
Yeah.
Just go and be. Because that some things, the only solution is just time.
Mm-hmm.
Time has to pass for that to resolve. So definitely physicians. I see a lot of physicians in my practice, nurse practitioners, healthcare professionals, especially post-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very, very good about looking like we've got it all together, and sometimes not having it together,
Yeah.
on our in our private life. But we have to make sure that we don't try to do our emotional and our private life solo. Like, that's not a
Yeah.
solo practice. Because I said this to one lady, that's not a solo practice. Your
Yeah.
emotional and private life, it's not solo. You need help. You need
Yeah.
a partner. You need emotional partners, someone you can talk to when it's not great, because it won't be
Yeah.
great every day.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said is so important of, someone who's in it with you, who's not trying to fix it for you.
Yeah,
Um, because and that happens to us as well, right? We want to fix things for people. And sometimes just being with them, just witnessing what is going on in their lives is very powerful. And that is enough because, of course, we can't fix so many things that come up in people's lives. So I love
right.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's most of our anxiety. My anxiety, your
yeah,
anxiety, anybody's anxiety is like, okay,
yeah,
let me try to control what I can't control. And that's a
yes,
lot of life. You just can't control.
yes, yes. Well, and take us through, kind of the next chapter in your story, because this happened, right? And eventually he did die, and here you are with your daughter. And that isn't the end of your story. Of course, it wouldn't be the end of anyone's story, but it is a chapter that closed. What happened from there?
Well, my husband that I'm currently married to, we met each other before my husband died. And when I tell people this story, at the time it was like, this is crazy. Now I've heard so many people say, wow, that happened. But even when my husband was alive, my first husband was alive, we knew my husband Kenny. And he said, well, what do you think about Kenny? And
Mm,
I said, think about him like what? Because I was literally telling everyone who knew me, I will never get married again. And that was coming from
mhm,
a place of hurt. I just
mhm,
didn't want
mhm.
to have to even think that I could go through this experience again. And
Yeah.
my current husband, is somewhat thinking ahead of like, well, would you think he'd be around if when I'm not here? And he's kind of like setting a stage for this thing that I am like, stop. But because we were so young, we grew up together, we had conversations that I think frightened some people around us, but we had to have very, very serious conversations, and we literally could talk about anything and everything, and we
Mhm.
did. So Kenny was in my life, but I was still very adamant I was not going to get married. I did not want to do that again. But I had a good friend of mine who's a therapist, a good friend, and she told me, she says, where's that coming from? Is it
Mhm.
coming from fear? Because again, that's me trying to control the
Right. I'm
uncontrollable.
not gonna expose myself to this hurt again, right? I just
Right,
yeah.
right. And so probably about a few months into what looked like dating to everyone else around us, he's like, "Hey, you want to be my girlfriend?" And I was like, "Well, I guess." I hadn't dated anybody since high school. I married my high school sweetheart. So I'm like, I guess this is how it goes. so so then we are officially dating, and then we married. But again, I would say one of the things that is important is it was a conscious decision. You can't be unconscious in all of this stuff that is
Mhm.
happening. It was conscious for me to say, okay, what now do I want to show my daughter? I had a
Mhm.
young daughter. She was 7 years old. And so it was important to me to say, well, what do I want to show her about love? What do I want to show her about resiliency, recovering from things that hurt you? I did not want her to see a mom that was bitter, or a mom
Mhm.
that, was afraid
Mhm.
to be in love again, and all of those things. So it was very conscious to move forward with being married, but it was scary. I mean, I will tell I tell everybody it was scary, because I knew what the hurt feels like when you're the partner who remains.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, women usually take care of women because we tend to outlive men anyway, oftentimes, even when the marriage, goes till death do you part.
Yeah.
Normally, we tend to outlive men. So I thought, oh my gosh, I'd have to go through that again. But I was willing to take the risk, because here are the benefits that come with that. Here are
Yeah.
the benefits for myself, my child, my life, having a partner. So I moved forward, and we built something together that's been totally different. A
Mhm.
whole new book. No one would have said that the life you have right now would be the life I wouldn't have believed that.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that was
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. Well, and of course, these real life circumstances happen, right? You probably didn't imagine as a high schooler that if you married your first husband that, oh, I'm gonna, go and be a doctor, but he's also gonna get brain cancer. That's
Absolutely.
also gonna happen. Like, the
Yeah.
things that we can't imagine. Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, and tell us a little bit about your professional journey, right? Because of course that is also something that has evolved significantly over time, and now there's many things that you're doing. Tell us a little bit about those parts.
Yeah, so like I said, I had come back here, and I came back to Atlanta to do a fellowship at Emory in geriatric psychiatry. And
Mm,
so I started off going with that. And at that time, when I came back from my fellowship, that was when my husband started to get very, very sick. And so I had to stop that, and I needed to work at
mm,
that point,
mhm.
because, it's been residency, little money. We're starting to
Yeah,
get into tremendous healthcare costs at this point. So
yeah.
I started working for a large healthcare system here in Atlanta, and it was tough. I mean, that was probably the most draining part of the journey. The last years of all of the health things he was going through, and I was
Mhm.
working now. I'm an attending now, and it was tough. I was seeing a ton of patients. How they do when we come out of residency, they burn you out. You don't know any difference
Yeah.
from resident to being the
You don't
attending.
know
So
what
they
to ask for, you don't know you
right,
can't
you
ask
don't
for
know.
anything, you're just like, "Oh, yep, here we go."
Right, here we go. This is what I do. I work till I fall out. And so I was just doing that, and the change happened. And this was a moment where where there were two moments. My husband had fallen. My first husband, he had fallen down the stairs, and so I get
Mm,
this call, and I'm at work seeing patients, and he's in the ER because he had fallen. And I went to my supervisor at that time and I said, I need to go, this happened. And
Yeah.
he said to me, he said, gosh, every time something happens with your spouse, it just drives my blood pressure up because you have to cancel patients. And it was just like a sinking feeling because I thought, you want me to put strangers above my own family?
Yeah.
And so from there, it just kind of shifted like, okay, if you don't create the life that you need to do this to take care of your family, then medicine isn't going to give that to you. So I
Hmm.
kind of stayed there with the thought that, okay, this isn't going to last, but I needed the healthcare insurance because he was very sick.
Yeah.
And so when he passed away, um, that following at the end of the year, I said, I need to be off for Christmas. My daughter, this is her first Christmas without her dad. I was the only woman in my group, and no
Mhm.
one would switch with me for Christmas. And so I put my resignation in the day after Christmas, and I didn't know where I was going. I didn't
Mhm.
know what the next stage was. I just knew I wasn't doing that anymore.
Yep.
And so I started talking. I started telling people, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a private practice where I can be at home by 5 o'clock to take care of my daughter, all of that. And a friend of a friend introduced me to this person, and I moved into a private practice where I was a partner with someone. And very, very shortly after I joined that group, she said, "Do you want these patients? I'm walking away." And
Mm.
I wasn't in the position to purchase the practice, but so we had a management company come in, but all those patients became loyal to me.
Mhm.
So I was able to go home and have normal hours, normal work hours. And then as time unfolded, that practice was going to be bought out, but I didn't have a contract with them because of the way that
Mm.
I came in. And so I had the ability to take about 1,500 patients and go build my own practice. And so that's what I did. Again, I had no idea how to build a practice,
Yeah.
no idea what I was doing, but one thing about when life happens to you the way that it happened to me, what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
I tell patients this: I had felt every feeling that I was going to feel in life, so
And you
fear really
survived
didn't
them.
yeah, so there's no real room for a whole lot of fear anymore.
Yeah.
So I went and did it and learned. My husband was my receptionist. I had remarried at that point, so he's the receptionist, he's the biller, he's the everything that I'm not at the practice. And we just went from there and kept building to the point where now we're at 6 clinicians and all these patients, and I can pull away and do other things like writing and speaking now. But it was just jumping out there and creating what I needed to be a doctor. And even with my clinicians, giving them the flexibility to be parents, to be
Mm. Mhm.
spouses. That's what I feel like I can offer them because that wasn't offered to me.
Yeah.
It
You
was
don't
medicine
talk to
first.
your fellow clinicians about what they're doing to your blood pressure?
Absolutely not. That's crazy, right? I thought,
Oh.
What?" I mean, it was like, oh, I thought medicine was supposed to take care of me. And I realized, oh, okay. And I think this is for a lot of female physicians. We don't have a model.
Mm-mm.
We are the model. We are
Yeah.
creating the model for what it looks like to be a happy, healthy, well-rounded female physician and retire. We
Yeah.
didn't see that. We don't
Yeah.
have women we can a lot of women we can look to that have retired from medicine and they had a well-balanced life and career. So we're
Yeah.
doing it now. And I
Yeah.
realized that when I was like, oh, I don't know anyone with my story. I don't know anyone who is trying to do what I'm doing. So it's going to be me.
Yeah. Well, and I just think about that moment, right, where whether that supervisor was conscious of what he was saying or not, the implication is that you, the physician, are responsible for how he feels
Yeah.
because you are trying to take care of someone in your family, right? And because this, quote unquote, happens all the time or whatever, and the default there, right? The people pleaser in us, the one who has been socialized to make others happy, would so often be like, oh, you know what, um,
Right.
I guess I'll stay. I guess I have to stay and, see these patients before I go to the ER.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And that's
that's what
such
I
a
did for
common,
you.
it's such a common, I don't even know what to call it, a common occurrence within medicine of medicine treating us like we are frequently inconveniencing medicine by
Yes.
having things go on in our lives, right? By, needing to eat, needing to sleep, needing to take care of sick family, sick children, a partner, any of those things. And we don't know what to do and how to navigate that because we never got that talk.
Yes.
No one sits down with us when we leave, medical school or residency or any of those points to say they are not going to support you
No.
and you're going to have to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that I train med students now with Morehouse School of Medicine, and that
Mhm.
is so important for me to talk to them about that this is your career, but
Mhm.
it is not your life.
Mm, mhm.
At the end of the day, for you and I, when the day closes, our life closes, the people that will speak the most about us will be our children, our spouse, our family.
Yep.
Our patient list is not going to be at our funeral for the most part.
Right.
I mean, we will
She never
likely have
said no is not
right,
gonna be
right. I
on our
mean,
graves.
that's not who's going to be there, and that's not
Yeah.
who's going to feel the ache of us no longer being there. So we have to make sure that we're prioritizing a well-balanced life, the same thing that we're telling our patients, and
Mhm.
the amazing thing about for me that I was in mental health, I'm
Mhm.
psychiatry, so I'm like I'm writing for patients to take 3 days off from work because they had a
Wow.
panic attack, and I am
Yeah.
having a panic attack in the parking lot trying to go to work to see
Yeah.
these people,
Yeah.
and my supervisor is just like, I just need you here seeing
Yeah,
people,
so
no
that my
matter
blood
how.
pressure is okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crazy. I can remember
Ugh.
being in the ER seeing patients with the flu. I tested
Mhm.
positive for the flu, had a fever of 103, and I remember in the ER, my supervisor saying, "Can you finish your shift?"
Yeah.
And I thought, I am going to go into probably 10 to 15 more rooms and give people the flu. This is insane.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I
So,
do agree with you, though, that women physicians are really leading culture change in a variety of ways and saying that we are not continuing this anymore. And unfortunately, that looks a lot of it. It seems to me very scattered at this point
yes,
because to make those culture systematic changes at the big level, right, in the big institutions, in big medicine, we've often been kicked out of those tables, especially if we speak our minds.
absolutely.
But, creating these conversations and building practices the way that we want to and advocating for things to be different and speaking up, in the places that we have, that will eventually shift the culture.
Oh yes, I mean it's shifting, and I mean I consider even when I get the opportunity to treat a physician or a nurse or a healthcare
Absolutely.
provider to always have them understand there is no healthcare system without us. We
Yes.
are the commodity in this system,
And we ought to
and
treat
so
ourselves like an asset and not a
absolutely,
widget.
we have to. We have to. You cannot put yourself at the bottom of your priority list and think that you will get a long, complete career. I mean, you will
Yeah.
burn out.
Yeah.
You will put your mental health, your physical health at great risk that you may not get to all those beautiful golden years in retirement. I mean, we all hope to get our 30 year, 20, 30 years in retirement. healthy and whole.
Yeah.
And the only way that that can happen is if you do not give everything away during your career,
Right. You take
especially
care of
for
yourself
women.
now. We don't wait until retirement to
Yeah,
enjoy it. That doesn't go very well.
yeah,
Um, we learn how to do it now. So for somebody who, is listening to this conversation and they find themselves, in the challenge of, having a very sick family member or spouse or child and trying to figure out what do you want them to know that you wish that you could have known in some of those moments?
yeah. So one, I would say first kind of pull back and assess your resources. Use all of your resources.
All
If
of
that
them.
means you need to move, take a new job closer to family or friends, use all of your resources, your church, your family, your friends. Do not go into the bubble by yourself trying to do that.
Mhm.
You need a tribe, a village to do what you need to do because it's your job as a I would say you're a village leader, you're a tribe leader. So you need a whole village to support you to do what you have to do. You cannot do that by yourself. And then, look at how you can do what you want to do and the reward be enough to, pay your bills
Mhm.
because finances are a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yes, we have to provide, but for women, especially, our career is not going to look typically like the trajectory that men have. It may not be, and I start here and then my trajectory is going straight up. You may have a little hiatus there where you're taking a little less money, but your life is more
Mhm.
balanced
Mhm.
because we have to have balance because we have so many relationships. So you may have to take a little less money for this period, but your needs are being met. And then when that thing, my child is older, I'm no longer taking care of this person, I can, shoot the trajectory right back up if I choose at that
Mhm.
point. Nothing, you're totally going to be capable to do that 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's okay if you have to take some breaks, if you
Yeah.
have to decrease what you're doing.
Yeah.
But anytime you're not having any time for yourself because you have too many things that you are trying to manage, you've got to stop that. We don't operate like that. Women have to be in balance.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
balanced creatures. So
Yeah.
you can't operate where it's not
Yeah.
in balance because
Yeah.
you will feel like you're in a fog.
Yeah. Well, and let's let go of the guilt, right? And many people will try and insert that guilt for us, right? The blood
Absolutely.
pressure comment, right? Many people will try to control us so that we are staying in line with what they want or, say that they need. And we need to realize for ourselves what I need right now matters. What I need in this situation is enough, right? And proceed.
Right, right. Guilt
Yeah.
has no place. Guilt, shame, none of that. I mean, it just has no value in this. I say this to, women, because the majority of my clients are women all the time. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to get an award at the end of the day for the most
Yeah.
exhausted,
Right.
the most, balancing the most
Sacrifice the most.
care. There's nothing coming. There's no one coming to save you. You're not going to get an
Yeah.
award. So we can quickly get out of the guilt and shame and get focused on what do I need? What do I want? And then choosing things also that because I think it's also really common for us to put our head down, do the work, and not care about whether or not it's rewarding to us. If
Mhm.
it is not rewarding to you, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Why are you sacrificing all of your family, your time, your life, and then you're not rewarded? So it still needs to be a way in that you're doing something every day that you feel rewarded from, because when you're doing something that you feel rewarded from, compensation will follow. I mean, you will not be able to be compensated at some point because you will get better and better at that thing. um, so I think sometimes the worry, what I hear women worrying, female physicians worrying about the finances, they feel like there's a
Mhm.
security in that. There is no security in it. We all know during the pandemic,
Yep.
physicians got fired. There's no
Fired. Yeah. Or
security.
owed money back that they were
Right.
paid, Yeah,
Right?
crazy.
It's a false sense of security. You are your security.
Yeah. Yes,
You know?
you are the asset,
Right,
and you need to take care of yourself and
right,
treat yourself as the valuable asset,
right,
right? And
right.
not, not just continue to grind. For people who want to know more about what you're doing and you have a book as well, tell us a little bit more about where we can find you, a little bit about your book.
So I released a book last year. It's called A Blueprint to Better Mental Health, and you can go on Amazon and get that. You can also go to my website, which is blueprintpsychiatry.com. So that is available now on Amazon in about 2 months. I'm excited because I have my second book, which I did some co-authoring with the legendary motivational speaker Lisa Nichols. So that
Oh,
is exciting because that is a book. Its layout is very similar to like the Chicken Soup for the Soul books, where they're
uh-huh.
just inspirational stories. So got to combine with several other authors and Lisa Nichols to put that together. So that will release in August. So you guys should be able to go to the website Blueprint Psychiatry. We'll have links there once that is available. And if for speaking engagements, all of that, you can just go there, contact me, and we would be able to connect. Or also Instagram. That's another place to contact me at Dr. Crystal Nelson on Instagram.
Great. And we'll have links to all of that in the show notes. And congrats in advance on
Thank
a second
you.
book. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
exciting. That was not something that I
yeah,
thought that would be part of the story either, but it
yeah,
is,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's been fun. It's been fun. It's a kind of reinvigorating. When I was a kid, I used to do a lot of creative writing, and uh, outside of doctoring, I tell everybody I would be in like the arts. I would be an artsy person. My daughter's an actress and all that stuff. So this is tapping back into that artsy side of me, where I get to write and create.
Love that. Love that. And you have to share, what kind of dancing do you enjoy?
So line dancing is my absolute favorite. How I met my husband, he is a Chicago step-in teacher, which is like improvisational ballroom,
Oh,
and
love that.
so that was how we met. But there really isn't any dance that I probably wouldn't try, that I wouldn't do. So that's just my world that I love, that I try to go in as much as I can. But being a physician, sometimes that doesn't happen. But
Yeah.
music, dance, that world, I feel like I'm just completely myself over there.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that's been a part of your story, including this last,
Yeah,
not that it is your last chapter, right? But this most recent chapter.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Love that.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. I think it's just powerful for us to hear each other's stories and, to know that we not only can survive these difficult experiences, but we can really find ourselves through those stories and grow and build the life that we want, even though we had no control, right, over
Yeah.
what happened to your first husband. So I really appreciate you being here and you sharing your story and just continuing to show us what's possible.
Yeah, thank you. And I love what you just said. Hopefully the ladies and the fellows, whoever is listening, hear that, because you can find yourself in your story. I mean, that's honestly, I think, where you find yourself. You don't really find yourself till you kind of hit some of that adversity. Then you really know who you are, what you're made of, what you want. So it does not have to be the end. You can say, all right, let me get curious about who I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, my friends. Well, thank you as always for tuning in to our special guest episode. And until next time, take care. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.